There's Sabrina, the CBC just joined. Just give us a second here. Okay. Well, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here this morning. I would like to thank all the journalists for attending this, shall we say, a first for the Filipino community. Today we have several community leaders from the Filipino community of Montreal who are speaking up and speaking out on the special needs and challenges facing Filipino youth in Montreal in terms of jobs, training, in education, access to sports and leisure programs, and many other social measures in order to ensure that they are fully participating and they're fully integrated in the mainstream society here in Montreal. And one of the issues is talking about youth and violence prevention, because the community does have some needs, and the community feels so far are mostly excluded or not being taken into account by many of the recent crime prevention measures that have been announced by the Quebec government and by the City of Montreal. So we have with us here today Mr. Ramon Vicente, who is the president of the Filipino Family Services in Montreal, and he's accompanied by Thelma Castro, who is an advisor to the Filipino Parents Association of Montreal, and Thelma has worked for some 30 years with youth and youth protection and many other social services. And we also have Mel Lugot, who is also a very, very active volunteer of the Filipino community. And we will also welcome Mr. Bryan Perona, who will be logging in very soon. Mr. Perona is a young Filipino in Montreal who runs a barbershop and a tattoo business, and he is in daily contact with a lot of Filipino youth, and he will have also a lot of important things to say. I believe that he's trying to log in right now in order to join us. But without any further delay, I would like to first invite Ramon to say a few words, to give us the background, and also to speak about some of the issues that you feel that the community and its partners in government and outside of Filipino community need to work together on. Go ahead, Ramon.
Thank you, Fo. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. My name is Ramon Vicente, President of Filipino Family Service of Montreal, which was established last June 2021. Our mission is to promote the well-being of the Filipino community of Quebec, to support and help new immigrants, and to adapt and integrate in the Quebec society by providing access to support network within and outside the Filipino community, services and programs adapted to the need of newcomers, parents, youth and seniors, and to assist the families with the supportive available services that are given by the municipal, provincial, and federal governments. We are the only charitable Filipino organization in Quebec whose objective, aside from adaptation and integration, also ensure the new immigrants access to education, health, social, and employment services. Based on recent census information, there are approximately 44,000 Filipinos in Montreal. Many are immigrants and first-generation Canadians. Almost 60% of our community are women, many of whom were in health care and as live-in caregivers. 35% are under 24 years of age. We are going public today to discuss many unmet needs of our Filipino youths. As Asians, we seldom speak publicly about our problems and challenges. But we live today in pandemic times and in critical times for our city. In recent months, there have been many incidents of gun violence involving youths. Many Black and Arab youths have been victims of the deadly violence. Barely into the first 20 days of New Year, 2 youths have been shot, one fatally in downtown Montreal. How many more must die before we do something? Much has been said about the needs to support young people and prevent violence through community programs to give them hope, opportunity, and pride. The Quebec government and the City of Montreal have announced millions of dollars of funding for youth crime prevention programs. The City of Montreal is planning a summit on armed violence. But we are not sure whether we and other English-speaking racialized communities will be a part of this summit and have equal access to that new funding. The Filipino community appears to be left behind despite our growing concerns about social, cultural, and economic marginalization of our youth. Indeed, our Filipino youth have faced numerous challenges. Filipino youth face numerous challenges in terms of integration and safety. These are not enough programs and services to address their needs in employment, language, training, education and leisure, and crime prevention. Some of the factors of exclusion and marginalization is that Filipino youths are English speaking, Asian, young, and low income. Also being newcomers who come to Montreal for family reunification after years of separation from their parents, thus facing alienation and lack of support. Many don't speak French at all and don't speak English well. Even if we speak English, we may not be considered English speaking as historic enough by the Quebec government. Many of them live in low-income families and neighborhoods. Being Asian, they being Asian.
Sorry, Ramon. Bashir, if you can put yourself on mute. Bashir, can you put yourself on mute, please? Thank you.
Sorry for that. Being Asian, they and we, their parents, don't speak for them. We recognize the pressing needs to support for the Filipino youths. First, lacking job opportunities due to language barriers. Second, lacking French language training and is adaptable to their needs. Third, substance abuse. Fourth, little access to sports and other educational services. Fifth, lacking social integration and inclusion. And of course, racism. These are the problems that can drive young people to despair, delinquency, and other destructive behaviors. This is why we are going public today to ask the city and the Quebec government not to leave us out and leave the Filipino youths behind in their crime prevention measures. The Filipino community must be included in all areas that affect the needs for the community and of society as a whole. If funding will alleviate and restore better conditions for the Filipino community in terms of preventing delinquency and promoting opportunity, then it is important that equitable access to be guaranteed now. And we are grateful that Councillor Stephanie Valenzuela is here with us to help us access resources and services that can give our youths and their families recognition, opportunity, hope, and pride. Merci et bonne journée.
Thank you very much, Ramon. I would like to invite now Thelma to say a few words, and then afterwards I would invite Bryan. And okay, so Thelma, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Thelma, and I'm the advisor of the Filipino Parents Association of Quebec. I've been in youth protection for the past 30 years, and also a community volunteer and leader for the past 30 years. So to me, I'm not here as an expert, but I just want to share you my experiences as an, community leader, as a worker for young people, that somehow I saw these challenges that Ramon has been talking about. I've seen how children who have arrived here, separated from their parents for 5 to 10 years, have suffered terribly, especially when they are mainstream in Casa de Cue and they don't speak French. And after some time, if they are young adolescents, they drop out because they cannot really manage. So, and then the separation, long separation from their parents, it's almost like two strangers getting together, have created a difficulty where they seek support outside with young other people experiencing the same. And that have led to, problems of vandalism and delinquency. And two, in schools, these children and these young adolescents, have to seek their own group because they're being bossed around. They're being, I don't know the term that they use again for this, that somehow they have to seek friendship outside, like a group, we call it in the Philippines, barkada, friendship. But, it turns out, that they do some delinquent acts when they don't get the support. So these are the problems that we have seen. And in the social service system, in the youth protection system, they're usually misunderstood in terms of culture, in terms of what they are really seeking for. And so what happens, some of the youths have been incarcerated. And the sad part about this, if they are incarcerated, at the age of 18, they have to move out, and there are really no services for them. And somehow it has something to do with, services of the community that the community have not been able to provide for lack of funding, for lack of support, and I think for lack of understanding, by our local governments and national government and what these people are undergoing in terms of social integration. So the problem of language is a big thing, because somehow when they feel useless and they feel demoralized and hopeless, then these petty crimes happen, and drugs and drinking and addiction. And it is so sad that somehow, much as we, small groups such as the Philippine support group that we have created and organized, we don't have funding for the past 20 or 25 years. And we've tried to do our part, to help our young people. But somehow we do not have enough services to go with it, or enough funding. So these are the problems. And now the big concern that we have is Bill 96, because somehow Bill 96 again kind of reinforce, the problems that these kids are having and the families are having. Because with Bill 96, we will be unable to really support our young people. So it's only given 6 months, to be able to support non-friends, to really be able to speak, the language. You don't gain proficiency in French in 6 months. What happens to the court system? What happens to social services, health services, and all these services, education that these young people have to be able to access when there are no services in English? We are an English-speaking community. Much as we support the integration in French, somehow we need a lot of services in the community to be able to integrate properly and appropriately. And I think experience have shown that the Filipino community have really been part of the society in Quebec that have really contributed a lot to the economy and to the families in Quebec. And thank you. These are all that I can share as of now, and maybe in future we'll be able to share more.
Thank you very much, Thelma. Thank you for your very broad view and presentation of the needs of the community. I would like to invite now Bryan, if he's still there to, is Bryan still there? If Bryan
I,
is,
yeah,
Bryan, can you turn on your camera, please? We'd like you to say a few words because you're a young person and you are in regular contacts with young Filipinos through your business. Is your camera on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can you lower your camera a little bit, please, so we see your face? Thank you. There you go. Go ahead, please. You'd like to say a few words?
yes.
Introduce yourself first and then share with us what you have known, have seen.
Okay. Hi guys. My name is Bryan Perona, and I run a barbershop. And so I'm in contact with many young Filipinos in Montreal. And a lot of them goes to my shop to sometimes ask for help, stuff like that. So yeah, I used to be that kid in the block that has troubles, also. So yeah. Anyways, many of them are immigrants. Many are unequal English speakers, and many lack opportunities. A lot of them feels like they don't belong, and they don't, and they are not treated equally. Many of them feel excluded because they are Asian, English speaking, and low income. So yeah, they're not enough because right now there are not enough community programs coordination and elsewhere for young people who have these special needs. This is why we need to work on a social and economic and they can have equal access to job opportunities, education, sports, and recreation, and other social services. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Could you, so I know you're also driving, so please stay with us and drive safely. I would like to invite now Stephanie Valenzuela. We have really, it's an honor for us to have you here, to have your support. You are not only from the community, you're also a young person, and you're becoming right now, in many ways, the champion of the Filipino community. So would you like to say a few words and address some of the issues that have been raised, and also speak on some of the things that you are doing for the community in terms of youth and violence prevention?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Valenzuela. I'm the city councilor for the District of Darlington in the borough of Côte-des-Neiges-Notre-Dame-des-Grâces. I have an extensive amount of experience and as well of knowledge on what's actually going on within the Filipino community and with our youth, because I was one of those Filipinas that grew up in Côte-des-Neiges, that have a lot of Filipino friends and that understand the realities of the Filipinos that just arrive here, and also the difference between the Filipinos that just arrive and the Filipinos that are born and raised here. There's often a clash of culture, and there's also a clash of just integration in itself. And over the years, it's something that has evolved and that has improved, but has never gotten to a point where we can really get our youth out of these particular situations. And that's why it's so important that we get support from all our levels of government, from municipal to provincial to federal. And in order to get that kind of support, we actually have to shed light on the situation. We need to get recognition. We need to get inclusion. Over the years, it's something that kind of just got swept under the rug. For a community that's been here for over 60 years, it's mind-boggling to think that it's only at this point in 2022 that we're really addressing these specific issues. And there's so much potential within the Filipino community. We have amazing youth that are creative, that have so much to achieve here in our society. And it's not a question necessarily of not being fully integrated. We have a lot of Filipinos that speak French, that are within the job force, but it's being able to provide services for those that need them. And we need that here in the Filipino community. We need that not just for the Filipino community, but for all the other communities that struggle with these kinds of language barriers or with these kinds of integration issues in Côte-des-Neiges and across Montreal. So on my end, I have already started the inquiries within the administration of Madame Valérie Plante, the mayor. I have sent emails to both spokespersons of public security and diversity and social inclusion. So hopefully by receiving these kinds of answers to the questions on whether or not English-speaking communities are considered, for example, in the security summit that was supposed to take place this January. By getting these answers, we would be able to address the shortages of integration of English-speaking communities and Filipino organizations as well. So hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll get some answers to that, and then we'll be able to start the integration into the city's network.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I think one of the key concerns is not being included in the planning of the Summit on Armed Violence that the city has been promised to hold. And secondly, so all the $1 million of crime prevention funding that are supposed to go to community groups, and so far the community has not been reached out to and being made available, knowing what the criteria are, because the community needs to tap into this funding for crime prevention measures as well. And I understand that many other English-speaking racialized communities also share the same concern, being excluded, particularly in the Black community, in the South Asian communities, in Codeneige, or in the western part of the city. So what is being done today is the Filipino community is leading this movement to be more included as English speakers, as also racialized communities in these prevention measures. I would like to, before I go to the question and answer period, I would like to acknowledge the presence also of Sonny Morose, Councillor of Snowden, who was also a friend and a champion of the Filipino community for a long time. So thank you very much, Mr. Morose, for being here. So I would like to invite any questions that anyone may have. I'd like to invite journalists to ask the question, please. Mr. Vicente, Mr. Thelma, and Bryan can be available to answer questions you may have. Do you have any questions?
Hi, I do. Hello, my name is Arvin Joaquin, and I'm a journalist with Omni News Filipino. It's a pleasure to be here today to hear the issues that's important to the Filipino community. I have a question, and is it possible to answer it first in English and then in Tagalog, whoever wants to speak out? I'm just wondering, why did it take so long for the Filipino community to speak out and voice the issues of our community?
Would you,
Yeah.
Thelma, would you like to say?
Yes. Okay. It's true. It took quite a while. I think you need to understand the history of the Filipino. It's in a sense, marginalized community. A lot of the people who were coming in here are really into jobs that are with long working hours, low payment, and a lot of marginalized, ghettoized jobs that to a certain extent, the primary objective was really to survive and to survive their families coming in here. A lot of families, it took them, migrant families, it took them 5 to 10 years before they're able to get their families. Imagine, they have to work 7 days a week and almost 12 hours a day to be able to earn enough living to support their families in the Philippines and to support them to come here. And coming in here, they have to, start paying off debts and supporting their families here for their integration and all that. So I would say that really it's a marginalized community that have taken such a long time to be able to come out. And now you see young people, these are the results of the hard work of the families that they have really kind of, supported through the years so that they can speak on behalf of the Filipinos now, you know. Yeah.
I just have a follow-up question, but is it possible? Is it okay if someone answer it in Filipino and Tagalog po? Meron pong pag pumupunta ka sa Canada, may transition period. So for example, you have to learn English muna bago yung French. May barrier po ba yun na parang kailangan mo munang mag-aral mag-English bago ka mag-aral ng French? Kasi parang double yung yung parang barrier. Hindi siya agad-agad na parang from the Philippines, may transition period. So just to be clear po, yung po bang nagko-connect po ba na yon from Filipino to English to French, yun yung delikadong mawala pag pumasa yung Bill 96? Kaya po ba tayo lumalaban or kaya po tayo nagsished ng light? Gusto ko lang malinaw. Thank you.
Ang mga Pilipino ay talagang English speaking na, no? Sa Pilipinas pa lang ay Pilipino ay mga English speaking na. So pagdating dito, nag-aaral sila ng French, okay? Ang pinaka problema pagdating dito, hindi naman agad-agad sa 6 na buwan matututo ka ng French, ng fluency ng French. At doon sa panahon na yon, ang pamilya mo, ikaw lang ang nag-aaral na kabataan, pero yung pamilya mo ay mga English speaking sila. Kaya nga hindi ka pa natutulungan pagdating sa eskwela eh. Dahil pagdating sa eskwela, kung minsan maraming mga anak ng mga migrante na talagang sila lang ang nag-aaral para sa sarili nila. Walang mga serbisyo para doon sa kunwari mga support system, tutorial, na mga ganon para doon sa mga bata. Kaya ang nangyayari, yung 6 na buwan na sinasabi ng Bill 96 ay talagang terrible ang impact doon sa Pilipino at sa mga ibang communities din. Kasi ano nang mangyayari doon sa mga dumating dito na hindi sila naging proficient sa pag-Tagalog ay pag-French. So, wala silang makukuhang serbisyo kasi doon sa Bill 96, hindi na pwedeng magbigay ng serbisyo sa English. Yun ang problema, malaking problema yon. So pagdating sa health, sa education, pagdating sa court system, paano na yung mga may kaso, no? So ano na mangyayari sa kanila? Wala nang mga interpretations doon kasi ang Bill 96 tinatanggal lahat yun. Pagsalita ng service providers ng English, yun ang problema.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Joaquin, I understand you from Toronto? Are you based in Toronto?
Sorry. Oh no, I'm based in Vancouver.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any more question, please? From journalist? Don't be shy.
Can I have a question?
Yes, please go ahead. You are?
From Canadian Pinoy-Radio Montreal, DGUE here.
Yeah.
Actually,
Go ahead, please.
I would like to address this question especially to Stephanie and Sonny Moros because they're in the council now, as a city councilor. What are the city council actions to prevent this Bill 96 to be implemented here? What can the city council or as a councilor, what you can do for us, especially Filipinos?
Could you give a short answer, please? Yeah.
Yes, at the city council level, unfortunately, it's not something that we can address necessarily because it's a provincial legislation. Unfortunately, on our end, the only thing that we can do is we can continue to fight and to make sure that we provide the services at the municipal level in English and in French, and if needed in the languages of the residents, their mother tongue. That's the other problem, is that often in, for example, the borough of Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, we have a lot of residents that don't speak English or don't speak French, and which is also why there's such a difficulty for them to reach out for these services or to question certain issues with the services. So that's already an added issue is that we have residents that don't speak either of the languages. So we really need to make sure that we maintain the access to providing services in English as well.
I'd like to add on to the answer of my colleague. Thank you for the question, DJ Yui. It's complicated because another place where elected officials could actually have an input on legislation was removed during the process of Bill 96. They used the notwithstanding clause, which normally we can go to David Birnbaum or Pierre Arcan, which are the provincial representatives in Côte-Neige, and we can ask them to have our representation met at the committees that then change the legislation, specifically to deal with issues that are often oversights of the legislation, like their impact on the Filipino community. I don't think the provincial government is aware, and that's why this press conference is so important. And the other part, which is something that all the parties promised during the last election, which is to guarantee, no matter what happens with Bill 96, the continuations of services to people regarding health and safety. So that's 911, 811, 311. 811 is the healthcare one provincially, that one's bilingual, but also 311. So if there's a pothole, that's a safety issue, and people need to be able to report in a language that they feel comfortable in. So that is the most we can guarantee right now. And when it comes up in the provincial election, we're also here to do representations to our provincial representatives and candidates to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire and keep promises from them that we can take forward after the elections. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Are there any other questions related to the situation of Filipino youth and violence prevention, or regarding other issues of integration for our speakers? Yes, Felicia, please go ahead, please. Felicia Adam.
Yes, so I do have I have two questions. For Bryan, if it's possible, could you please just spell out your last name? I didn't quite get it there.
Bryan Perona. It's Perona.
Perfect. Thank you. And so, you know, the Filipino community have been excluded from, you know, the crime prevention methods that were announced by Quebec and Montreal, and they've kind of been excluded from general community services. But what specifically, when you guys talk about, you know, programs and whatnot, what specifically, what are the programs that you're speaking about that are needed?
Like sports program, and you know, like a center or something that could help them, like for example, like after school, right? So they got nowhere to go. So
I apologize. Sorry, could you turn on your camera? Is that possible? Sorry. Perfect.
Hi, hello. Yeah.
Go ahead, please, Bryan.
Yes, like a sports program that could help them, like, because every time, for example, they go after school, right? They got nowhere to go. All they had to do is just chill outside and do nothing, right? So they need a program like that could help them. How do you say this? For example, that could help them, like, you know.
Stay busy.
I don't know what to say. Okay,
Basically,
great.
it's hi. My name's Reggie, and basically what we're trying to say is that a sports center would be good for everybody, especially the young ones, because like before we used to have youth association for the kids. So like we were most focused on sports, doing arts, stuff like that. Because like nowadays, basically, especially with the COVID situation with the pandemic, there's a lot of empty, like there's a lot of time, there's a lot of how do you say that? There's a lot of times that basically you're not doing anything. You know, there's no activities, no nothing at all. So what we're trying to say is basically a sports center that has sports for young kids, basketball, like any other sports, badminton, ping pong, or anything that we could use, so that the the kids nowadays could just, after school, they could go there and enjoy themselves and still be with their friends. Because as Filipinos, we're very, I would say we're very close. We like being in a group, right? And we like spending time with each other. So basically, if we would have a center of our own, or just a center that everybody could go and chill and just talk with everybody and relax, at the same time doing sports, that would be the best thing for, I guess, for the Filipino community right now. That's
Thank you very much. Thank you. Do you have
Can
any
I
more
add?
questions? Yeah, please. No,
Yeah.
hold on a second. I'd like to ask if Mr. Adams would like to ask another question.
No other questions, but if anybody else has any comment on my question, you can go ahead as well.
Sure, go ahead, Thelma. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to add that we can also have help in terms of language proficiency. Okay, all these services have been kind of dropped out already out of the blue, in terms of help for language proficiency, not only for the kids, but also for the families, because the kids go to school without any help. Not even their families are able to help them. So that's one big, service that can be done. As well, if the Bill 96 can be amended, so that it will not really kind of put pressure on the families and the youths, to learn proficiency in 6 months, or else they don't get any kind of services. I think that's a big thing that somehow the government can do. As well, research. We need a lot of research, particularly to find out really, what we're talking about in terms of needs assessment. What are the needs of these youths now that, what kind of services will be more effective so that they don't drop out of the school, so that they will become, participating members of society, once they finish. Language is a big thing, but there could be other things. Racism is a big thing as well. And then maybe services for, in terms of training a lot of service providers for the kind of, understanding the culture, because there are very few social service providers that are Filipinos. I think in the youth protection before, I was one of the very few for 30 years. It only increased a little. So meaning to say there's a problem of integration in terms of even the service providers speaking, and the culture of the Filipinos being assimilated into the into the Quebec culture and all that. So there can be a lot of these things that can be provided, particularly around the services for young people, and for service providers, so that they can understand better the kind of people they're serving and all that,
Okay, thank you, Thelma.
Yeah.
Any more question?
My name is Esther Nugid. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I was just wondering. We all know the problem, and we've been discussing it for quite a while. And I think we have to find a solution. And we have requested, and we've requested for several years for funding and for help. Now, I don't know if the government is listening or any government that is listening, but the thing is, we know the problem. We need a solution, and I don't know what action should be taken by just asking for funding, by just asking for help. There must be a creative solution that we could do now, and a simple thing that we should do is social integration. We should include Filipinos in every event that the government gives, and that is a must. I think we should demand, not, I don't know. It must be included in every integration that our ideas, because Filipinos are intelligent, they're not stupid.
Yeah, thank you very much, Esther. Just want to reiterate again that we're doing this press conference today because we're going public with regard to not only talking about the needs, but also about the kind of solutions and the kind of actions should be taken. We at CRAR will be working with the Filipino community to make sure that the community will be included in all these crime prevention initiatives, particularly the Summit on Violence and all these crime prevention programs, but also can help develop those, whether needs assessments and services and programs, because it's about getting your foot into the door and then get into the house and sit at the decision-making table and be recognized, being listened to, and being paid attention to. I think so far, like many other English-speaking racialized groups, the Filipino community is, shall we say, a little bit left behind. So hopefully, as of today, we'll try to change that. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes, I just have one more follow-up question. I'm just wondering, because right now we're talking about ways for Filipinos to integrate in Quebec society, but I'm just wondering, what are possible ways and solutions to encourage Filipinos and Filipino youth to seek help? Because culturally, we rarely ask for help when we need to. I think there's this I think it's a cultural thing that like we are expected to be resilient and just power through like adversities and struggles. But I'm just wondering, what are possible ways to encourage people who are struggling to seek out all the help they need?
Maybe what I'd like to invite Stephanie Valenzuela to answer that, because in addition to being a city councilor, you're also a Filipino youth in many ways. You're one of the youngest members of the city council, so maybe you can speak to that from your generation.
I do believe that there is this cultural clash or taboo that stops a lot of individuals that come from these ethnic backgrounds that are a little more about just pushing through and just being resilient and getting the work done. And that's often the reason why we don't talk about mental illness, or we don't address, our mental health issues, or we don't talk about issues of alcoholism or of drug addiction, because we kind of want to hide that, and we want to create a persona of, that we're not perfect, but we want to keep that image. So I believe it really is important for our generation, the generation that is now in the workforce, professionals that kind of have this foot on the ground within the Montreal and Quebec society. And it's up to us to talk about it openly and to not hide the fact that these issues exist in our society, in our community. Starts with that, and it also starts within the different organizations that are available to open the channels with the different members of the community, to give them this window of opportunity to show them that it's okay to talk about these issues. It's okay to not be comfortable. It's okay to to address this and to open up conversation with people that hopefully you feel you can trust. So it's building trust within the community. It's building networks in the community between different generations that is going to allow us to hopefully move forward and open up about different issues in the community. Unfortunately, there's no one trick solution. It's not something that can change overnight. It's really something that we're going to have to build upon. But it starts now, and it starts with the willingness and openness of community members such as Tita Thelma or Tito Ramon and myself. And we need allies. We need people like Fo. We need people like Mr. Sunny Morose to be part of this challenge and to be part of this, hopefully, openness in the community.
I like to just add, what we're talking about here is, first of all, debunking the myth of the Asian minority. I mean the model minority, which is very, very familiar for a lot of Asian people. Breaking down cultural barriers and developing survival skills, leadership skills, and other political skills as well, so as to become more active in the community, socially, politically, economically. And this is why Stephanie Valenzuela can be, in a way, a role model to help other Filipino youth, male and female, to become less hesitant and to hopefully to step forward. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank everyone for being here. I believe that everyone who spoke today will be available for follow-up interviews, particularly Bryan and Stephanie, because you are young people, but and Thelma also because of your expertise in youth protection and social services over the years. So feel free to contact us if you need more follow-up interviews. So on everyone's behalf, I'd like to thank you for being here this morning. I would like to thank Ms. Valenzuela and Ms. Moroz for your support and your ongoing, shall we say, championship of the Filipino community needs and causes. And we hope to have you back for other opportunities in the future and hopefully more results. And we look forward to, by the way, getting the answer from the city with regard to the inclusion in that summit violence and other crime prevention measures.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. All right, take care. And we have a recording here. So for those media people who wish to receive the just let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Take care.
Have a good
Don't
day.
forget to apply.